Good evening, everybody. I hope you can take this. It's end of the day. When Clay started in Dallas as a attending or associate professor, I was his first fellow. So I did learn a lot of drum path and other things like how to be active, how to be hyper, how to talk fast, how to have many slides. So we'll we'll get started with that. So. So obviously I have to, I am a consultant for this company which makes confocal microscopy. Now, why I really got involved with it or I start getting interested, I was a derm path first, then I became a dermatologist, then I got interested in pigmented lesions. And then there are times when even if you put a dermatoscope on it, but parent are like swearing that this lesion is changing. And if this is somebody close to you and you want to do a biopsy, the only way they really do a biopsy here is you remove it completely and send it to derm path, and it is possible that this will be called as a dysplastic nevus, maybe mild to moderate dysplastic going to the margin. The next step is you're going to excise it. So in these cases, I really started thinking maybe I should look into other things, and maybe if we have to do a biopsy, it will be a one step, or maybe we won't need a biopsy. So that's how my interest started. So now, what is this confocal microscopy really? Basically, it's a laser scope where this little station can image the lesion with this little device here, which is then seen on a screen. And now there are actually two machines. This is a bigger machine, but now there is also a handheld machine, a small one, which I'll show next photo. And this is now available in many countries, and it's FDA cleared. It's a safe device to use. So obviously then, when you start using new tools, everybody wants to know the diagnostic accuracy, sensitivity, specificity, and all that. This is the published stats on it. But really, these guys who published, these are the world best expert, Dr. Giovanni Pellicani, who was my teacher at Salvador. But when you take a new derm path fellow, first day, first week, or a first derm resident, most of the time they don't know how a lymphocyte look from a neutrophils. And you have to point it out, hey, this blue one. So if you take his diagnostic accuracy or sensitivity or specificity, obviously it won't be this good. But if you obviously take Clay or one of the other professors from this morning, they will be much higher than this. So for new tools, sensitivity, specificity, diagnostic accuracy will improve as you learn how to use it. But this is by the experts. Now, the technology now, basically, you can, sorry, let me go back. You can hear, this is an imaging station somewhere in one office, where then via a safe, HIPAA-compliant, cloud-based system, it goes somewhere, and then it comes back to the reader. So reader doesn't need a scope anymore, or many lights or bulbs with them, so they could be anywhere. And I actually do sign reports, confocal report. I'm hiding the name here. This is whatever. And in the end, I put a little disclaimer. But basically, I sign cases on confocal microscopy. So how it works is there is a little device which you basically put a ring on it and put on patient's skin, shoot the image, and in quick few minutes, you can actually see the image. And the way it works is basically the light, a low laser light reflects through the skin, and then you'll see in traditional histology, we'll see like vertical section from epidermis going deep, but in this one, like most section, we are basically looking this way, and we can decide which layer to look at and how to look at it as you see these three things here. Now, why it works? The way it works is, luckily to our luck, the cells which we really want to see for melanocyte and nevi, melanocyte have a very high refraction index. And this scope works with that, so anything which have high melanin content, you can see them very brightly. And then the other cells like keratin-containing structures, Langerhans cells, granulocyte, all these cells, basically based on their refraction index, you can see them. And this is the new handheld scope, which is really small, and you can carry it with you. So the way it would work was with this vivascope or confocal microscopy, you can basically see through the stratum corneum. So for example, if there was a dermatophyte sitting there, we will see it with the scope. And if there was a scabies, we will still see it. And if it was a staph syndrome, I can still probably see it. But you can basically look at these layers individually or in together. I'll show later. The only disadvantage at this point is the penetration for confocal microscopy is only good one up to papillary dermis. So if things are deeper down here, then we can't see them. So that's a big drawback currently. Now, the way it works is this is a histology slide. We can usually take like 0.5 millimeter photos at a time. Like this in any area, and then this is what you will see on confocal microscopy. So it is a black and white photo, that's all you see, and all these cells with little black holes in the middle, these are all keratinocytes. So obviously the resolution is not as good as histology, but this is without cutting, without any time and everything, so you can see these cells. So this is just image of one example. Then you can also cut it this way and look at the whole area, or you can go, if you do it this way, basically you can make a big whole mosaic of the whole 8 millimeter area by taking several photos, and then software stitches it for you. Or you can go at one point wherever, if you think this is the area of interest in the melanocytic lesion, you can just straight go down and take this thing called Vivastat, going all the way deep, superficial to deep. So then, why would you even need a confocal microscopy? To me, I use it. I have in many of my offices, even at the medical school. And really, we use it is when you have numerous pigment lesions, they all look bad. How many are you going to biopsy? Some of them have 300 lesions. So in those cases, maybe you can narrow it down and really biopsy the one which you think should be biopsied or excised. And then lesions which are present at aesthetically significant site. If I have a mole on my nose or a lentigo, which could be pigmented actinic keratosis, could be lentigo, could be melanoma, and the lesion is 1.5 centimeter, if you send the biopsy to me as a derm path, I'm going to say, give me the whole lesion. If you sell me the whole lesion, it was a benign lentigo, that's a sad scar for the patient on the chest or on the face. So in those cases, this really have a use. Then in children, most of the children moles are benign. The mothers are worried, or fathers are worried, and they just want to remove them. And I hate to remove them. They cry, we remove them, they come back usually fine. So in them, maybe it's a good use. And then for any reason, if patient doesn't want a biopsy or you can't do a biopsy, then it's a good use. And then treatment monitoring. Now there is a lot of research where if you put a retin-A and you want to see it worked or not worked, then you can see the epidermis before and after without cutting. Now, I will try to teach whatever I can in this limited time, just basic how do we approach a lesion when we're doing confocal microscopy. So similarly, like we do, in histology, we look at epidermis, then dermis, then inflammation and everything else. Similarly, we'll go through this. We'll look at the superficial epidermis and what else we can see with it. Then usually dermoepidermal junction, and then the papillary dermis. Usually, this works pretty well for neoplasm. Most of the neoplasm inflammations right now are not well defined. I'm looking for a fellow to write that book with me. So anyway, so let's look at the superficial epidermis, and let's compare it with histology. On here, this is an epidermis with just normal skin keratinocytes. On the left side, I'm also showing this is epidermis with just normal looking keratinocytes. So it's this pattern in confocal we call a regular honeycomb pattern or little network-like pattern. Now, if you, hyperkeratosis, obviously in histology, is a thickening of stratum corneum. In confocal, you see this big transparent just scales, which indicate that it is hyperkeratosis. Parakeratosis is a little bit difficult initially, but as compared to histology here, similarly, you can see structures there with little nuclei and round oval cells other than the scale there. So usually parakeratosis, in most of the cases, accompanies hyperkeratosis until, so you can match this histology on this side with parakeratosis on confocal. And then acanthosis, that takes a little bit time to learn on confocal, but this is a psoriasiform hyperplasia here. And then on this side, obviously, we're not looking vertically, we're looking in this direction. But this honeycomb usually broadens a little bit, and you sort of see this little protuberances there, or a little bit thick there. This one we will call acanthosis, but to look at acanthosis, actually you have to look at like a video film on confocal, and usually we would count how many screens it took me from going from a scale to the dermoepidermal junction, and that's why the middle section is probably this thick, so that's how we will quickly calculate that this is acanthotic. And then next is dyskeratosis. So dyskeratosis here, this is probably an actinic or SCC in situ earlier on, and these are abnormal cells. Here then we show similar stuff on confocal, just basically a lot of these round cells. In area they are small, in area they are disorganized. So very matching to the histology, dyskeratosis, dyskeratosis. Then we use this term in confocal a lot, polarized elongated keratinocytes. Basically these cells, these keratinocytes, in some time in basal cell or some other lesions, they become, nuclei become elongated and they look like little lines. I have more example later on. But this usually means it may be a basal cell carcinoma at the surface. Then we go to inflammation. So here we have inflammation here, which is hyperkeratosis, parakeratosis, spongiosis, vesicle, and little inflammation. So similarly, we can show there are vesicles here, big ones, these ones, and then you can see spongiosis, where earlier on you start to see the little black separation between these cells. So spongiosis, and then this is the dermal papilla. I'll show later on how do you get there, but this black hole is a dermal papilla, and there are many these little white cells, which are actually lymphocytes. It's hard to tell on confocal between a neutrophil and a lymphocyte, but we can usually tell between lymphocyte and macrophages. So there are some inflammatory cells. So as I was saying earlier, inflammations are not well defined yet on confocal because they are just not written yet. We are writing it now, but you can tell spongiosis clearly. And then to our luck, pigmented lesions look very nice on confocal also. Here is a dermoscopy picture of this pigmented lesion with their network or some homogeneous area in the middle. Here we're showing just to show that this pattern on confocal is called cobblestone pattern, where you have this round cell with little pigment cap or white cap on them. Whenever I'm saying white here, that means these cells have pigment. Here it's brown, but they look white here because of confocal is just in black and white. Sorry. Now, next is, okay, so we can look at nevi, but if you have pagetoid infiltration, or if it's melanoma in situ, or a nevus with severe atypia in the epidermis, can you see that? So yes, you can see that. Does it look like melanocyte here? Yes, it looks like melanocyte here. So this is a large atypical round pigmented cell, randomly distributed in the epidermis here. So these atypical pagetoid cell could be round or dendritic. I'll show some examples later, but very comparable to melanoma in situ here and melanomas in situ here. And then they could be dendritic here, bulky dendritic cells. Sometimes Langerhans cells look exactly like this, but usually they are more dendrites and they are not this fat, usually. So sorry, I moved fast somewhere. So So they could be dendritic. And by the way, Langerhans cells you can never see on H&E, almost never. But on confocal, you can see that all the time, without staining, obviously. So then we go to neck-wooded epidermis. In epidermis, we looked at some pattern which are visible on confocal microscopy. Then we're going to go to next level, which is dermoepidermal junction. That's how we are learning the patterns on confocal microscopy. So in this one then, this is a normal dermoepidermal junction. This is a dermoepidermal junction here. So instead of looking vertically, here we're looking at horizontally. So this is dermoepidermal junction, and this will be dermal papilla. Why they look like bright? Usually, luckily, if you have melanin in those cells, they will look bright. But if the skin was really, really pale, it may be difficult to see them. So a normal dermoepidermal junction would look like this, and this pattern then we call a ring pattern, which is very common in lentigo and many of the melanocytic lesions. So a ringed pattern. Here again, an example of ring pattern. Here basically in histology, little bit melanocytic hyperplasia, some nesting here. That's what we're showing here. It is a ring pattern, but in area it's becoming a little bit thicker. So maybe an earlier nest here of this ringed pattern. Then there are other patterns at the same level. We call it polycyclic papillary contours. They come from here. This is an SK with little lentiginous hyperplasia and some acanthosis. That can be also seen here in a brain-like pattern, which is also a clinical pattern of a SK on dermoscopy. So these were those dermoepidermal junction. In this case, they're a little bit bulky. And then SK can have another pattern where you have this broadened interpapillary area. So remember, these are dermal papilla. These are the areas between the papilla. In SKs, usually they thicken. As they thickened here, there could be pseudohonsis there, which is this one right here. Then a meshwork pattern. So melanocytic lesions also can have ringwork pattern. Now this is a next pattern called meshwork pattern, where the same rings which we were seeing here, now they look much bulky, or they're actually protruding into the dermal papilla, which are, remember, these black holes, which are these ones. Basically, if you cut them this way, you'll see them protruding in there. So very matching with this. And then different types of dermal nest. We'll look at on the junction, we can just see ring pattern or some meshwork pattern. When we go to dermis, obviously there are different type of dermal nest on confocal. So this is a very common pattern when you see dermal nevi. It could be compound, but this is how the dermal part would look like. And we call it a dense nest, compact aggregates of cells. And then it could be dense and sparse, like a dense area, sparse in another area, very tightly packed. In this case, it's a melanoma, because if you compare with the other one, it's a little more brighter, a little more not only polymorphous, different sizes of cells here. You can have a dense and sparse pattern where it could be like tightly packed, and some other cells, this congenital nevi, when initially learning, if you didn't see the clinical picture or if you didn't see the epidermis, they could look scary, that is it a melanoma? But this is a pattern of a congenital nevus. Sorry. Then the dermal part of melanoma can sometimes have this pattern, which is a cerebriform pattern, where you have these nuclei which is filled with nucleoli, and they look little brain-like pattern, tightly packed in the dermis. But remember this, if this was deeper, a little bit lower than papillary dermis, we wouldn't see it. It has to be way up for us to see with confocal. So then non-specific patterns, obviously when you don't see any pattern, in here we see these rings, papillary rings, and then we see these broadened interpapillary areas, and then several bright cells here and there, like you can see in melanocytic lesions. So another pattern which we call a cord-like structures, which is a classical for a basal cell. So here is a basal cell on histology, and here is a basal cell on confocal, where you have all these cord-like structures which prefer palisading. Cells in the middle are very classic for a basal cell. Basal cell can also have this other pattern called dark silhouette. So other than the palisading area, in the middle you can have in between these big black holes. Around there is the tumor proliferation. And then I'm going to skip this 2 wordy. Basically, the papilla, when you look at them, if they're edged, edge mean you can draw a nice line around them, so that means they're still benign. Even though these are bulky with the junctional nest, they still have nice edges. So we describe this term in report. If the papilla are edged, then it's a benign feature. But if they are not edged, then something is wrong. So here, for example, those rings are gone, and you have some random round cells just wandering around here. And similarly, these edges are gone. So usually the junctional nests, as they break, in cases of melanoma, they don't obviously behave nested anymore, and they just break away and break the edges and everything. So we call them a non-edge pattern. I showed some atypical cells especially in melanocytes, we classify them into round and dendritic. And here are some atypical cells which are mostly round. Comparable histology here, and obviously it is some kind of melanoma. And there are, I didn't see any dendritic, but we showed some examples before. So then we will go to dermis. So we covered epidermis, we covered dermoepidermal junction, and now I'm going to papillary dermis. And in that, we can see the inflammation. If this black hole I've been teaching that is dermal papilla, then these white things in there are inflammatory cells. So, which is also visible here. It has this, like those little black papering there. So the small white cells usually are lymphocytes, and the bigger, brighter cells are usually melanophages or macrophages. Then we can actually tell interface dermatitis on confocal without classifying into further, but you can tell that there is some party going on at dermoepidermal junction, like this is interface here. Looking at this could be, lichen planus, lupus, whatever, interface dermatitis. Similarly, these edges, which were supposed to be nice and fine, are all obscured by these white cells. So this will be an interface dermatitis in confocal microscopy. Then regression, regression here clinically, the lesion, some lesion persisting, other disappeared. Then you have some pigment incontinence here and white areas. This is dermoscopy. And similarly on confocal, these white areas are obviously fibrosis. These white are collagen fibers, fibrosis, some melanophages, and some inflammatory cells. So you can see regression also here, compatible to clinical and histology. Then solar elastosis in the dermis. If you have a lot, you can see these little elastic fibers, H and E, and then these curly ones all are here. This is solar elastosis. So if you're doing a research where you want to show you fix the collagen with your magical Effraxer laser, then you can show the collagen did change before and after without cutting. And then just like this was a paper published a few years ago, just comparing dermoscopy with histology and then confocal microscopy. And here are some comparisons from the paper. So as we were saying, we learned that there could be a ring pattern. A ring pattern come from there, lentiginous hyperplasia, maybe some early nesting here. Then it could be meshwork where you have bulky nests hanging into the dermal papillae, or it could be a clawed pattern, CLOD, which are dermal nests. So, beautifully matching with each other, and you can tell. Then it could be a ring pattern meshwork combination. You know, nevi do that all the time. This one has a little mesh, little network. Similarly, you have little bulkier meshwork here, and you have ringed pattern here. No big deal. That can happen in nevis all the time. Okay, so another example of this clawed pattern or a dermal nevus pattern. And then clawed pattern here just at a low power, where you see all these round balls here. These are all dermal nevi. Then other nevi, basically, you know, they can have many clinical dermoscopic pattern, but in confocal you can also match them with that. A clawed pattern here, a clawed pattern here. And then these are actually, how many of you do clinics also? Most of the time when they see a mole like this, they get scared, including me. And if it's a single lesion on a feasible site, usually we remove it. But it could be spits, it could be, but these are symmetrical globules, and on dermoscopy, we can still watch it, but these are very scary. People biopsy them all the time with these peripheral globules, and you can actually show that here also. So in the middle, we have a little, you know, some nesting in the dermis, some in the epidermis, and the periphery, we have these little bulkier globules. So this is what makes them, but it's totally benign. No need to worry, no need to worry clinically, no need to worry here also. And then I'm trying not to call nevi dysplastic nevi on confocal, but sometimes clinicians who send it, I do call them. But as you know, many people believe that, you know, there are nevi, there is melanoma, and there is a transition in between. Other people don't believe that, but we are not going to debate right now. So in confocal, if something is dysplastic, for example, what would that show then? So these bulky nests we were saying, they will be irregular, some smaller, some bigger, and say it's usually a large asymmetrical lesion. And then that bridging we talk in histology, like one nest is connected to the next one. Similarly, you can also see that bridging here. So if you want to call them on confocal dysplastic, they have a very compatible histology to Clark's nevi or dysplastic nevi. Then overall, obviously, lesion is very asymmetrical. It has a ringwork and meshwork pattern, a little bit irregular. So like so-called dysplastic nevi are clinically like that. And then here we see like they are meshwork or ring pattern in area. Similarly, this lesion histologically in area is just have no nest. In area it has more nest. In area is connected. So this will create a meshwork here. So it's very compatible. This we talked. So next, little bit about melanoma. Just a disclaimer is if melanoma is deep and it has no in situ component, we may not see it, but usually melanoma luckily have things in the epidermis. So histopathology, obviously I don't need to teach you, but Dr. Giovanni Pellicani, who published this paper, he set up 2 major criteria, 2 minor criteria. The major criteria basically is like you have atypia at dermoepidermal junction. So these round cells, these are melanocytes, just single melanocyte at dermoepidermal junction, and then non-edged papilla we talked earlier. If it was a happy benign nevus, then you would have a nice ring here, but this edge is gone. So these, if you see these two, this is melanoma. And then there are these examples of atypical cells at dermoepidermal junctions. And then nucleated cell or atypical cells already deep in the dermal papilla. Here, roundish pagetoid cells and dendritic one also. And then widespread pagetoid infiltration here. And these are some nucleated or atypical melanocytes in dermal papilla. And remember, I showed this picture earlier. At times, it will be a tightly packed melanoma just sitting in the dermis. And if it was way up, we could have seen it on confocal. So then, few pagetoid cells here in the dermoepidermal junction here, also compatible in this area. So few more examples of these atypical cells. And then irregular meshwork pattern, which doesn't have edges, have atypical cells. It's very irregular melanoma. What if it was a thick melanoma like this? Then what happens is, if there is an epidermal hyperplasia, which in nevi or melanoma you can have, and if it didn't have many cells in the epidermis, you may not see, but if you're lucky that lesion was not very acanthotic and you can see through, you will see infiltration in the dermis. All black areas are dermis, and you see all those cells. Another thick melanoma on this side, very close to epidermis, and this is invasive melanoma here. My most favorite, which is really, really useful, I have just few more slides, lentigo maligna. This is really when we can use it, because clinically, well, this is a good lesion, but it could be pigmented actin keratosis, SK with LP-LK-like area, or it could be lentigo maligna. No, this is what I was talking earlier. If you send clay, this area is going to be benign. And if you don't tell him that there was more lesion, obviously he's not going to know. If you tell him there more lesion, then you have to send the more lesion. But if this lesion was benign and you did a whole shave or cut whatever, then that's a sad story. So this will be a great use in this area. So the feature on lentigo maligna on confocal are, you see these atypical round cells centered around hair follicles. So that's the feature. Usually around in follicular epithelium, around there, you'll see a lot of atypical cell. You won't see that in actinic keratosis, you won't see in NSK or a lentigo. So these are just large atypical cells centered around hair follicles. Another example. Now this, so amelanotic melanoma, obviously big deal clinically, dermoscopically, sometime you can tell. So you do a biopsy and you find out it was a melanoma. Then nobody else clinically knows it's a. But I think you can see few things on confocal if you're lucky. But obviously this lesion is ugly. We're going to biopsy it anyway. You don't need confocal, but just to show what would confocal show. You can actually start to see some atypical cells. They are earlier on, which may not be visible otherwise. Sorry. All these abnormal cells. Now, quickly, few features of SK. We're going to do SK, dermatofibroma, sebaceous hyperplasia, basal cell, squamous cell, and stop. Do we have enough time, Clay? Okay. So the features are for an SK. We were talking earlier, these bulbous projections and large interpapillary spaces. So you can have these polycyclic papillary contours and keratin-filled cyst inclusions. You don't have to have all of them. If you find one of them, you're pretty sure that's what you're dealing with. So just a clinical. And then here is histology, and here as you have brain-like or like polycyclic papillary contours, which you don't need anything else then. Another example of, I showed this already, widened intrapapillary spaces. Same thing. Another example, usually you have in pigmented SKs, you'll see a lot of melanophages and pigment. Then dermatofibroma quickly. Dermatofibroma on histology, and dermatofibroma here. We will show some epidermal like ring-like pattern, but if you go a little bit higher, you will see some fibrosis, but this is the classical picture. Usually around the lesion, you see these polycyclic papillary rings like an SK, but in the middle, you'll see a little scar-like area, usually. Here, so these rings here, and then in the middle, you have this fibrosis. So like fibrosis surrounded by these rings usually is dermatofibroma. And these rings are coming from that epidermal hyperplasia with a little bit of a pigment. Sebaceous hyperplasia, sometime on the face. Usually it's easy to tell, but if you want to look with confocal, here it is. And a large gland with a lot of sebaceous, like one follicle with sebaceous glands, lobules. Then basal cell, we shot some picture. One of them we were talking this polarization or elongation of nuclei with their line next to each other like this. And then this is high power view. We were saying you can see this dark silhouette and then these palisading areas here. Here is a good example. This is a lobule of a basal cell with palisading. Another good example. And this is actually now, there is an ex vivo scope available for confocal where people are starting to do Mohs section. So without staining, they can tell Mohs section. This is a slide I borrowed from Memorial Sloan, their paper, and they're starting to see Mohs sections on basal cell. Actinic keratosis is usually easy. Here is an AK on the top, AK here, AK here. Some parakeratosis and these round atypical cells in the stratum corneum. And then you can have subspongiosis, but these cells are dyskeratotic. Why I say that? Some are large, some are small, and they don't have nice honeycomb pattern. Then solar elastosis, we were earlier talking, major solar elastosis here. Squamous cell from AK to next is squame, squame, and squame. So here, obviously, we're not in the dermis, but this is major dyskeratosis and irregular, this nuclei, large, small, with some hyperkeratosis. And then some you can see infiltrating the dermis. This is one of my patients, clinically just boring hyperkeratotic nodule, papule, histology, and this is very matching lesion with the atypia and some cells going into the dermis. And atypia here. Then I have a little quiz. So, at what level is the image taken, we think? And so if we see these rings, where are we usually? So these black areas are papilla, so this is dermoepidermal junction. And the next question is, what is the diagnosis and what are the pertinent positive findings? Well, you have a mole here, so it's melanocytic lesion. But so it's a DN, yes. So here is a dermoepidermal junction. Why I say that? Because we can see the rings, we can see the black papilla. If we were way up, we won't see the rings. So that tells you a dermoepidermal junction, and then it has this area where you have nests which are bridging. There is some inflammation, so it will qualify, and it's little more rings here, no rings here, so it's irregular, so it will qualify as a dysplastic nevus. Now, two great cases which actually you will never see again, you have never seen yet. This is a case, angiosarcoma, walked into the clinic. Before we were doing biopsy, I said, let me do a confocal. So I was lucky to get this photo. So this is angiosarc, like dilated vessel with atypical endothelial cells, hemorrhage, exactly same area there. Obviously, you won't do a confocal and call something angiosarc, but just to show that it has a matching histology there on both sides. And then the last one is this. This patient has this naked epithelial granuloma, clinically sarcoid, histologically same granuloma. These are all macrophages, very little lymphocytes, So obviously looking at it, you can't tell it's sarcoid, but it's a very comparable histology if you were thinking right clinically. Now, limitations, I've been talking a whole evening it's another tool to buy. Lasers make more money. If you buy one, you can charge $800 for a Fraxel. So then training experience, obviously, it takes some time to get to a level where you can diagnose. And then images are only black and white. We are all used to looking at H&E, which is prettier than those. And then depth of penetration is just papillary dermis. And then there are still questions how to bill, when we will get paid, etc. So with that, I'm open for questions. Yes. Usually the Paget's disease itself, if you send me a confocal image with that, I may not be able to tell, but I have not actually seen Paget disease with confocal yet. I've seen in a book, but you can see the round cell, but they are not this bright usually. Usually no, not melanin at all, not much. But it'll be hard. Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.